But I'm going to jump to Javier's question. Now, Javier was a part of the Q&A show last week, and so I appreciate his engagement here. But he brought up a kind of a very interesting thing that applies to everybody, and that is kind of asking for tips or advice on how to achieve your first strict pull-up. And strict pull-ups are something that are very meaningful to me as as a coach. And strict pull-ups are one of there's a few of them, but one of the most powerful movements that we are able to coach athletes towards. And when you watch an athlete achieve their first strict pull-up and then get their first two, because really it's doing the two that then they believe they can do it for real. Very few things evoke the same reaction or such a powerful reaction in terms of achieving a movement. Now, there's other things. You get your first muscle up, but oftentimes those people have felt achievement before. Achieving your strict pull-up is often the first of many of those achievements. And so we kind of have to get through that because so many things are unlocked by your ability to do strict pull-ups. Then suddenly the kipping pull-up, and then escalating things to the chest bar, the muscle up, all becomes possible. While if you don't have your strict pull-up, there's not only no hope to really effectively achieve those things, but it's also unsafe and, quite frankly, not recommended. So the strict pull-up is really, really important. And then whether you're a man or a woman, the strict pull-up is something that seems elusive, and it seems that for some of us it'll never happen, but I assure you it can. Now, the first thing to understand is it's no different than any other movement. If you want to squat a big weight, okay, you have to be strong enough to do it. And if you're not strong enough to squat 400 pounds, then maybe you need to go down to 300 pounds. Maybe you need to go down to 200 pounds. If you can't squat 200, you wouldn't look at 400 and be like, well, it's not fair, I can't do that. Pull-ups are the same thing. You're still pulling weight, and the weight is you, okay? And so we have two choices in any movement in here. We either get stronger, okay, or we lessen the load. We lighten the load. And now with a pull-up, you look at that and you go, well, I can't really do anything about myself. And that's why it's a long game. The pull-up is a long development process. And so what you're eating does matter. If you are not taking care of yourself, if you are carrying weight that would be considered to be over your ideal body weight, then we have to get strong while also hopefully eating well and intending on losing that weight. Because it's not just limited. That is not to say that people that would be maybe considered overweight can't do strict pull-ups. There are some people out there that are doing strict pull-ups, banging out big sets, no problem, at body weight that maybe their doctors wouldn't recommend. So, nope, you don't get to play the victim here because you can also just get awesomely strong and achieve this. But it's twofold. You need to bring that body weight down as you increase the strength. Now, in terms of specific progressions, the number one thing would be the negative. Your ability to control the descent from the point that your chin's above the bar to the point that you're fully locked out at the bottom. So kind of the opposite of what you're thinking. The pathway on the way down from your chin being up and then coming down below the bar. Can you control that? Because oftentimes we see athletes that are starting out, they can't. We'll have them kind of stand on the box so they can get their chin over the bar. We'll say, okay, squeeze it. And now we, take the box away or step off the box and try not to just plummet to full extension. And a lot of times you're going to fall straight down. And that just simply means we don't have the musculature in place yet. So doing negatives, practicing negatives, increasing the time that you're able to control it. Can you count to 3 before you get to the bottom? I don't mean 1, 2, 3. I mean 1, 2, 3. And now can we count to 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you do it for 30 seconds? Like, is there a 30-second progression? Practice that. See where you're at. And understand, if you can't, that's where band work can come in. Because banded pull-ups are not my favorite. I do not think that banded strict pull-ups really pay off. Banded kipping pull-ups are bullshit. Throw that out, okay? Let's just be square there. But I don't think that banded strict pull-ups really have the payoff we think it does. But instead, get a band on there that does afford you opportunity to live in that negative, okay? As you're descending, can you slow it? And that's where the progression of bands can be very, very useful. Maybe with a thin red band, I can do a 3 count, but with a green band, I can do like a 15 count. Variety is important here, but that negative, body weight's ideal, but if you need the assistance of the band to slow the fall, as long as you're feeling that, that is going to get you down the road to achieving the first one, okay? Now, the second thing is just heavy pulls. You may not be able to do a strict pull-up, but you can sure as hell do a heavy barbell row. You can do ring rows. You can continue to challenge yourself on ring rows. And maybe I should speak to that for a second because ring rows come up often. We use them in our warm-ups, and we use them as scale progressions to the kipping and the strict pull-ups. Maybe you've left your feet in the same place for the last year. maybe you're standing just as erect at the top of your ring row as you were a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago. You need to be constantly challenging yourself. How far down could you lay to give more body weight on that ring row? Be progressing, always challenge. And that doesn't mean like if we program 20 pull-ups in a row and we're expecting our athletes to do 20 kipping pull-ups on the pull-up bar in a row, then maybe you do need to lessen load, stand more upright. But on the days where especially we program 7 strict pull-ups every round, you need to make those hard because most people aren't doing 7 in a row. They're doing 7 the first round, they'll do 5 and 2 the second round, then they're going to like 4 and 3, more likely 4, 2 and 1, something like that. So if you're just winging it through the ring rows, you're missing opportunity there, okay? On a heavy barbell row, it's not the same plane of motion or range of motion, okay? Obviously, a strict pull-up is pulling down the body, and that barbell row is more kind of pulling into the body, depending on ideally if you're getting that tabletop feature with the back angle. But pulling is pulling, okay? And that brings me to the final point. Just get strong in the upper body. What upper body movements do you excel at right now, okay? And it doesn't mean you're great at them relative to others, but for you, can you do push-ups well? Do a ton of push-ups. Can you work into some box dips? Can you get on some ring dips? We had ring practice the other day. Nobody that was able to achieve ring dips did not have strict pull-ups, okay? Now, chicken or the egg there, which comes first? Generally, we see strict pull-ups before ring dips. My point is, don't just limit yourself to thinking about the pull-up variations. If we get the upper body strong, it will be able to do more things. That's the beauty of CrossFit. As my dips get better, my pull-ups get better. It's weird. They're not the same. Nobody would mistake, okay, what's happening. But the same musculature is firing. It's doing different things, but the same musculature is being used, and the muscular conditioning of the arms will go in a long way in helping you prepare for that. So we will put out some videos. We've been trying to work on a actual progression, but the reality is just consistently challenge yourself in upper body strengthening is going to get you there. I promise, okay? So thank you, Javier, for that question. Taylor asked us about zone 40, 30, 30. If you're not familiar, zone is what Glassman originally attached to the CrossFit methodology in terms of the quantity control for nutrition. His quality control was basically stated in 100 words, or fitness in 100 words. I'd encourage you to Google that right now. It's such an impactful statement. It's 100 words that literally, if you just follow those 100 words, you will be a healthy, happy individual. All right? And in it, he said that we eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. That was the quality control. If you meet those parameters, you're probably good on the quality front. And then for the quantity, now in the statement it says something, but the second sentence is about enough. We eat enough to support performance, but not body fat. But then when you read more in the journal, they actually do talk about, in the L1 handbook, they talk about the quantity control being kind of outsourced to the zone approach. And the zone approach to diet is getting 40% of your calories from the carbohydrate macronutrient, getting 30% and 30% from your protein and from your fat. Okay? How this was different, this was, remember, early 2000s. Why this was such a big deal back then was this was the low fat, no fat craze. This was when everybody thought that fat was evil. That was the reason that you have heart attacks and you have heart disease, okay? Since then, we found that Harvard had been paid off and that study was fraudulent. And so the study where they decided to not vilify something like sugar, but instead look at dietary fat as a whole, which is insane. Just like carbohydrates, there are levels to this. Carbs should not be vilified. Protein shouldn't be vilified, and fat should not be vilified. Now, if you eat trash products that contain fat, so trash fat or trash highly refined carbohydrates, you're going to be unhealthy no matter what. It is the quality that matters within these macronutrients, and then the quantity does as well. Fat, dietary fat is 9 calories per gram of fat, and that makes it a very calorically dense macronutrient. That's versus a gram of protein and a gram of carb, both equaling only 4 calories, okay? So if we do overconsume fat, we can store body fat, all right? But at the same time, if we eat too little of dietary fat, hormone function gets thrown, a lot of things go poorly. Recovery efforts, you miss your period if you're a lady, okay? Things go wrong. So that's where the zone diet comes and goes, no, 30% fat, let's get it up there. 30% dietary fat of your total caloric intake was tremendous, okay, back in the early 2000s. It's for keto, it's for paleo. This was crazy to people, okay? And now it's the norm. We're excited. But we have seen a tweak. When you're coming in here 4 to 5, even 6 days a week, when you're not sitting at a desk all day, when you are active somewhat, some level of activity during your day, we find, personally, only my experience in this gym, running this gym, 45% carbohydrate, 30 to 35% protein, and 20 to 25% fat to meet the needs of our athletes a little more, okay? And so that is kind of without considering personal factors, okay? Without considering different variables, insulin levels, insulin sensitivity, pre-diabetic condition, anything like that. That is what we see for hard charges in the gym. Men and women that are coming in here that are pushing every single workout, no easy days, recovering intentionally, but then getting back to work when they can. We've seen that 45, 30 to 35, 20 to 25 pay off pretty tremendously. And then just so we can throw it in there, if anybody's learning, look, nutritionists have a lot of value. I would seek a professional. But again, with our experiences, what we also see is that 11 to 12 calories per pound of lean body mass keeps us pretty functional. Now, this is not with people doing like 2 a days. This is not for people sedentary. This is for people working their ass off for at least an hour a day, 4 to 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days, okay, and getting moving in the other parts of their day, not sitting at a desk all day. That's where we have to look at different factors, and sometimes you need a lot more, sometimes you need a lot less, okay, so keep that in mind. But in terms of 40, 30, 30, we do like the 45, 30, 35, 20, 25 things. All right, since we had so many questions this time around, as I mentioned in another video that, again, I don't know if we're going to share or not. I'm sorry. I'm going to get good at this. Maybe we'll hire a team that can tell me how to do this. But I'm going to end on an easy one. So I talked about the gratitude practice, which will be in the video that you may or may not see, okay? I talked about this cup. Got Mickey Mouse throughout the years. It's got Steamboat Willie Mickey, but it's got Sorcerer Mickey from Fantasia through the years. And I love this. I love this. He was born in 1928, created by Of Iwerks and Walt Disney after Oswald the Rabbit was taken by Universal, ironically, from the Disney company. If you don't know Oswald, look up Oswald. He was Mickey before Mickey. He swept the nation. But hardship leads to innovation, and Walt iterated as a result of the hand he was dealt. And not only did he introduce Mickey with Steamboat Willie, but he introduced sound. He introduced sound to the animated classics, or to the animated shorts, which had never been done before. It was not the first movie. The Jazz Singer, I believe, was the first movie with sound. But Steamboat Willie was the first animated short with sound, and then they went to color. They did so many things after that. But Taylor had asked us some easy, like not easy, but smaller questions. And so the one I was going to answer at the end of this is favorite Disney treat. If you don't know, Disney's known for treats in their parks, and like the Dole Whip, which is funny. He said no Dole Whip. I wouldn't have said Dole Whip anyways, Taylor, because it's not my favorite. In fact, it was not a big part of my childhood. But what is the churro. The Disney churro, to me, is amazing. You don't find them everywhere. Disneyland, their churros, pretty abundant sources of churros. Disney World, you have a harder time finding. I think Hollywood Studios, at least, usually is the only place that has churros. I think sometimes they do promotions, like with the Star Wars stuff. They'll do, they make the churros look like lightsabers, and so they'll use sprinkles, different color sprinkles, to make it different color lightsabers. But a Disney churro is my favorite treat. On a different note, I was able to go in January of 2014, and the hot chocolate there, which is literally hot water and Swiss Miss, like not Disney brand anything. I swear there's pixie dust in it, because their hot chocolate was delicious. And again, maybe it was because it was the first trip where I paid my own way, and so I appreciated things more. But like their hot chocolate, there was something special about that. But the Disney churro is definitely my favorite Disney treat. All right, that'll conclude this video. I hope you have a fabulous day. Again, we post the Ask Us a Question on Wednesdays on our Instagram story, so check out the @BlackWolfCF Instagram story for that.